I just wanted to make this video real quick to revise something. I was finally able to sit down with Little Nightmares 2 recently, and just like I did with the original game, took to researching right away. For one, I just wanted to make sure that I grasped at least a basic idea of what was going on. And two, just to kind of put my feelers out there and see what the overall vibe was of it on the internet. I even went as far as to watch my original video because I was curious to see how some of those initial ideas, thoughts, and feelings that I had would hold up against some of the more recent or fresh things that I had learned. And something that I noticed about myself in that video is that I seemed quite heavily focused on theorizing and speculation. Basically doing my best to provide some sort of justifiable answers to the basic narrative questions of who are we, where are we, and what's going on. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that can be fun to do, to conversate with people, to discuss those things and debate those things. And for all I know, a lot of those initial concepts that I came up with may turn out to be true. Who knows? But the thing of it is that you don't necessarily have to depend on or lean on those traditional elements in order to tell a story. In fact, sometimes, if you look at it from the perspectives of theme or metaphor, they make it a little bit more digestible. Let me give it to you in a series of questions. Why do we play as children in these games? Why are we in a world that feels so scary? Or like everything is out to get them? Why does it feel so disproportionate to them, or quite frankly difficult to navigate? What is it that children fear the most? Now, if you ask me, my answer would be growing up. Now, sure, everybody goes through that phase in life where we say, man, I can't wait to grow up to do what I want when I want and be my own person. But what happens when we become those adults and are thrust into a world that would love nothing more than to dissolve our childlike minds and contort our innocence? What's the one thing that as those adults we find ourselves saying more often than we probably realize? That we miss the good old days, right? So let's look at it from the ma and the lady's perspective. What can sometimes happen to people as they get older? Greed sets in. They become gluttonous, like to live in excess. In some cases, they may even lie to themselves, do their best to convince themselves and those around them that for whatever reason, their lives are just that much better than everybody else's. So it's entirely plausible that on one hand, maybe the lady just chooses to surround herself with these grotesque, deformed beings to make herself feel better, to help her be this revered goddess that is somehow able to maintain her size, her height, her grace, her beauty, even when surrounded with these hideous beings. On the other hand, maybe she's just a super narcissistic figure who does everything that she does in vanity, as a desperate attempt to hold on to her youth. Then we look at Little Nightmares 2, where we see the character of Mono, who for one reason or another possesses the power to bend his reality through televisions. Eventually, we meet up with Six, who of course is the main protagonist of the first game. We journey through a city that exists in the shadow of a giant signal tower that is populated with adults. It's also there that we come across our main antagonist of the game, known as the Tall Man or the Slim Man, whose job it is to make sure that that signal remains uninterrupted through all of the televisions in the city. Now, why is this? I think because what is arguably the biggest form of escapism for us adults when our responsibilities just become too overwhelming? For most of us, it's video games, TV, movies, that sort of thing. And this is all represented by every adult in this city basically being this mindless, dependent drone. And we experience all of these things just to get to the revelation that Mono is in fact the Tall Man. Essentially, he is fated to grow up one day and become him. He is destined to fill that role and contribute to this society, and he can't escape it any easier than Six can escape her insatiable hunger that leads her to the maw in the first place. So I really think, at its core, Little Nightmares as a whole is very much just about the horrors of adult life through the eyes of a child, and that transition where not only you change drastically, but the world changes around you. The expectations that it has of you change. And so, yeah, I think that's the basic gist. Like I said, I don't know if I'm right at all. If anybody has anything they'd like to add or maybe a different perspective, feel free to drop it in the comments below so we can have a discussion about it. But yeah, that's my food for thought after beating the second game. So I guess until then, guys, or until the next video, whichever comes first, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time.